Good. So, good morning. Thank you for coming for this morning's press conference on our new World Economic Forum Cyber Resilience Initiative launch. We're very pleased to have Mr. Chandrasekaran, the CEO of Tata Consultancy Services, and we're also joined by my colleague Alan Marcus, the Senior Director who oversees our IT and telecoms industry here at the World Economic Forum. And without any further ado, Alan, could you give us an overview of the Partnering for Cyber Resilience and what its objectives are?
Yes, thank you. So we've embarked on the notion that we are living in an interdependent world, that the digitization that we're all seeing, this hyperconnectivity that is being created between all of us, is changing the nature of our relationships. And as we look at that, we're starting to see this increased dependence on this connectivity just for normal functioning of society. This then becomes a critical protection issue. How do we protect this infrastructure? How do we ensure that this hyper-connected space continues to be a shared resource and continues to be defined as part of our independence and how it gets governed? We keep looking at lots of different ways of creating this protection of cybersecurity, and what we start to realize is that we need to get to a common set of principles. And with this common set of principles, we can act independently, but yet still achieve something that's in common. And so we created what we now call the Commitment to Cyber Resilience. And the notion is that we get visibility and accountability to the most senior members of the business and other organizational communities. And by looking at the chief executive as someone who has this accountability, it is no longer being relegated just to, a CIO or a security officer. And so we've come up with 4 very simple principles that we think that if each organization embraced them, that we're not going to solve the issues of cybersecurity, but we're definitely going to make a strong movement forward in concert that could have a dramatic effect on how these systems get secured. So 4 principles. First, the recognition that we are interdependent, that you cannot just act alone without understanding the implications on others. Second, that you have a role of leadership, that you need to encourage others within your organization, within your supply chains and your community, that they also have to think in terms of their accountability and responsibility. Third, you have to build in an integrated risk management program. This is part of that risk profile, and it has to be part of an ongoing recognition. And fourth, you have to promote uptake. We have to encourage anyone and everyone we see to make this happen. And as we get more and more signatures, we will find that we get a community that will continue to evolve around some common tools and opportunities for delivery on these principles. We started with 5 very important organizations that helped us get this far, and they are our 5 originating signatories, and we will continue to do this work over the next 6 to 12 months and build up additional. The 5 were Ian Livingston, the CEO of British Telecom, or BT, Bill McCracken, the CEO of CA. We had the Director of Europol, Rob Wainwright, and we had Michael Chertoff, Principal at the Chertoff Group and former Secretary of Homeland Security from the United States. And finally, but not least, we had Chandrasekaran, Mr. Chandrasekaran from Tata Consultancy. These are the 5 originating signatures and the 5 that actually helped us build to this point. We also had additional advisory services from Deloitte, and I want to mention that specifically because they really made a difference in making sure that we had the structure that executives could follow and understand. And with that, I say I guess maybe the last thing I would like to add is the best way to think about this is immunizing the internet. That if each of us take these precautions, these prophylaxis, that we can ensure that those that don't, we can deal with sort of pushing them out to the periphery, and that if we can get others to recognize that we've taken these precautions, we find that we'll have a much easier way of dialoguing with the public sector and with each other in terms of protecting our informational and communication assets.
Thank you.
The world is really connected. In fact, it's hyper-connected. The number of devices that are getting connected every single day is significantly increasing. It's not a linear progression. It's a network effect that's happening. And there is a significant amount of things that we're able to achieve because the world is connected. It's a big positive momentum in terms of the difference that we can make to the businesses, the societies at large, and the governments. We can solve business problems, societal problems, governmental problems. But at the same time, with all this advantage and proliferation of devices and the hyper-connectedness, there is a significant risk that comes along. That is the cyber risk. You can call it a cyber security issue, and it is of different proportions. At the basic level, it can be theft. At a complex level, it can be espionage. When we talk about all of this, being a consulting company which works with leading corporations in the world across markets, what we recognize is everyone is aware of or at least appreciates the possibility of the cyber risk and the need for protecting each business and the world against a possible crime. And it is not easy because the technology is advancing every single day. And so it's just not an implementation of technology. You need the business processes, and more importantly, you need the governance and a framework in order to be able to protect yourselves against it. And I'm very fortunate to have been part of this great initiative from the WEF, and we have had an excellent experience over the last several months in working with the WEF people in putting together this fantastic framework. It's very simple and uses the tools that are available, namely the maturity model, the checklists, and certain basic guidelines with which each corporation in the world and governments in the world can make a significant progress against the cyber risk to start with. We are pretty excited, and that's why we signed up, and I'm pretty sure that every CEO who looks at the methods that has been prescribed will find it extremely valuable to sign up to this program. And I hope we will create a movement which will bring CEOs and companies and governments and policymakers together in order to address this issue in a holistic manner and save the world from any kind of risk due to the internet and any kind of hyperconnectedness.
Thank you very much. Maybe before we go on to Q&As, just a quick question also to Marcus, to Alan. If you perhaps you could just explain a little bit what you've done around this new initiative here in Davos, and also where you hope this initiative will take us.
So here in Davos, we actually had a very specific, I guess, workshop, maybe the best way to describe it, on this particular project, where we brought together some very specific regulators and very specific business leaders, particularly at the CEO level, but others as well, across multiple industries. And the intent here was first certainly to explain the work that's been done, but also to really dive deeper, to really get a better structured understanding of what these principles mean and what it might mean to how we operate and interface with each other. And the point of the regulators was certainly so that they start to see that a commitment is being built from the private sector. Because the challenge we face is the potential for overregulation or fear driving things that might not really deliver the value we're looking for. And we've seen some examples of that certainly in a number of countries, certainly in the last few months. So this public-private dialogue that's now beginning is going to allow us to continue to not just look at this from a chief executive standpoint, but also to try and understand what the role of the regulator would be and the policymaker in thinking about these principles, and maybe moving it at some point in the near future to something that would be looked upon as part of a requirement for chief executives, and then part of a benefit from the regulator standpoint to know that companies are behaving responsibly in this particular space.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Well, I suppose if there's no questions, anything else you might want to add on this, perhaps where you would like to see this initiative achieve?
Well, certainly I think so this is the beginning. This is definitely the beginning. We are working with a number of organizations within certainly the IT and the telecom community and some adjacencies. We are going to use the commitment that's been building here at Davos to continue to move out to other industries. Certainly industries around utility, financial services, health, all have infrastructures that are used in informational assets that are very sensitive. And so how do we build better security around that? Moving across these different industries is certainly going to be a big part of the people who sign up to this in the beginning, helping us make that happen, and getting the attention of the regulators, helping them see that this is something that they themselves might also want to be committing to. And of course, therefore, we'll see some evolution and a better understanding of the tools and successes that are going to happen.
Thank you very much.